Tough Talk on Sex and Sexuality Across Africa. A conversation for Gen Z with Darnell Ishmel. September 16, 2023. Sexuality is a natural and biological part of being human. It's something that people across cultures, religions, and societies experience. But for many of us, particularly in Africa, conversations about sex are often avoided or treated as taboo. In fact, puritanical beliefs, which view sex as sinful or wrong outside of strict norms, have taken deep root in many religious traditions, especially in Christianity. This has led to widespread shame, guilt, and confusion about our natural sexual impulses. Why should natural sexual impulses be shamed when they are a fundamental part of being human? This is the question we must ask ourselves, especially in societies where sexual expression is often framed as something to fear or hide. Sexual impulse is natural. Our sexual desires are part of who we are as humans. But puritanical thinking, ideas that often condemn any sexual expression outside of heterosexual marriage, has caused many people to suppress these natural urges. This has led to shame surrounding normal sexual feelings, censorship around important discussions of sexuality, including LGBTQIA+ topics, repression, which harms our mental health and disconnects us from our true selves. The harm of Puritanism in religion. For centuries, strict religious teachings have taught people to see sex as something to fear or hide. Many of us have been raised to believe that even discussing sex is wrong. This has caused real harm. Disconnection from healthy sexual expression. Instead of embracing our sexuality, many feel forced to suppress it. Guilt and internal conflict. Young people often feel torn between natural sexual desires and the strict religious teachings they've grown up with. Harm to mental health. The shame and guilt that comes with repressing our sexuality can lead to depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem. How has religious guilt shaped your understanding of your own sexual identity? This question invites you to reflect on how deeply religious teachings may have influenced your view of sex and your self-identity. Reclaiming sexuality. It's time to reclaim sexuality as something that is healthy and natural. Many progressive thinkers and religious leaders are already starting to do this by encouraging open and honest conversations about sex, celebrating the naturalness of sexual desire, including LGBTQIA+ experiences, redefining religious teachings to focus on love, consent, and healthy relationships. Sexual discovery early in life. Most people start exploring their sexuality early in life, often during adolescence or even childhood. This is normal, but the way we're introduced to sex can have a lasting impact. Many young people are introduced to masturbation and sexual behaviors through pornography or peers, sometimes even through older caregivers or authority figures. Unfortunately, without proper guidance, this can lead to confusion or harmful patterns of behavior. Introduction to masturbation and pornography. For many youth, pornography becomes the first introduction to sex. This exposure can sometimes warp our understanding of healthy relationships, consent, intimacy. On the other hand, some young people are introduced to masturbation by their peers or by older individuals. This can be either healthy or harmful, depending on the context and the type of guidance they receive. Is pornography the only way youth in your community are learning about sex, and what impact is that having? In societies where open discussions about sex are taboo, many young people turn to pornography for sexual education. But is this providing a healthy foundation for understanding sexuality? Guilt and unhealthy choices. In many cultures, especially those shaped by guilt-heavy religious teachings, sexual exploration is often met with harsh judgment. This causes young people to suppress their natural sexual desires out of shame or fear, engage in secretive or unhealthy sexual practices to avoid being judged, experience guilt and confusion about their desires, which can lead to unhealthy behaviors and low self-esteem. Ignorance born of innocence. A lot of young people, especially those raised in conservative religious communities, don't receive proper education about sex. As a result, they may be left in the dark about important topics like sexual health, contraception, consent. This lack of information isn't intentional. It comes from a place of cultural and religious silence around sexuality. As a result, many youth end up navigating their sexuality alone, often making unsafe choices because they lack proper knowledge. Breaking the cycle of guilt and ignorance. So how do we move forward? It starts with 3 key steps. 1. Comprehensive sex education. Youth need to be introduced to sexual health, consent, and body autonomy in a safe and informative way. This education should be honest, inclusive, and help reduce the guilt and shame that often surrounds sexual exploration. 2. Addressing religious shame. Religious leaders and communities need to rethink how they talk about sexuality. Instead of promoting guilt and shame, we need open conversations that align with our biological, emotional, and spiritual realities. 3. Empowering youth with knowledge. When youth are equipped with accurate information about sexual health, they can navigate their sexuality more confidently and safely. This knowledge will help them make decisions based on understanding rather than fear or guilt. How can we break free from cultural and religious silence to have open conversations about sexual health? This is the challenge before us, to create spaces for honest conversations that allow youth to learn about their bodies and their desires without fear or shame. A call to action. As Gen Z youth in Africa, it's time to reclaim your right to understand, discuss, and embrace your sexuality in healthy ways. Are you living authentically, or are you suppressing your true sexual desires due to societal expectations? We can create a future where sexuality is celebrated and where education replaces shame. By doing so, we will ensure that future generations are empowered with the knowledge and confidence to make informed, healthy, and loving choices.